hostile political climate threatening cinema. Let me bring up the story from Variety here by Ed Meza. Hostile political climate threatening cinema. Industry representatives warn at Zurich summit. I believe we have notes for this story. Badger, if you would.
At the Zurich summit, industry leaders warned that journalists, filmmakers, and cinema itself face growing political threats and shrinking creative freedoms. It shrinks? Kathleen Furner, producer of the Julian Assange documentary, The $6 Billion Man, described how political risks forced her to relocate production from the US and UK to Berlin due to weak protections for journalists. We didn't feel comfortable editing in the UK or in the US because there are laws there and ways to seize footage. Yet, even in Germany, she added, we started to see that journalists were challenged there in real time. Fournier called for stronger safeguards for journalists and noted how streaming platforms have sidelined political documentaries in favor of safer, less controversial content. Sort of documentaries you now find on streaming platforms tend to be historical, true crime, or very personal stories, she observed, saying the media landscape was changing fundamentally, dramatically. Stephen Follows, a film data researcher, sharply criticized the industry's risk aversion, saying companies lack the courage once seen in 1970s cinema. Film industry is fundamentally risk-averse and scared and cowardly, he argued, pointing out how bold works like Bowling for Columbine once secured major releases. Chairman of MK2 highlighted how far-right groups increasingly attack films and filmmakers on social media and in politics. Culture is under attack and cinema is under attack, he warned, citing challenges to France's National Film Center and public television. While acknowledging the tense climate, David Unger of Artists International Group expressed optimism, recalling how past works like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner once provoked controversy but later gained acceptance. For us to have this dialogue here is important, Unger said, stressing the need for open discussion about the future of the industry. Despite winning Cannes' Golden Eye Special, jury prize, and earning phenomenal reviews, The $6 Billion Man lacks a U.S. distributor, with Fournier noting, people love the film, but it's a difficult film. It talks about Trump. It talks about the 69. Deep state.
Well, Alan and I are about to, we're going to review a movie in the coming weeks called 2 + 2 = 5. It is a movie that is, it's part biopic of George Orwell.
No, it's a documentary.
Story.
It's a documentary.
Well, it's a documentary, but what I mean is it tells the story of George Orwell, the person, his influences, who he was. It talks about Animal Farm. It talks about his, obviously 1984, but it really is one-sided in the way it presents things. In the typical, I mean, we saw a documentary series about Barney the dinosaur last year that I thought was really great up until the end, when they tried to compare people who criticize Barney the dinosaur. It's called I Love You, You Hate Me. I thought it was great. Except at the end, they showed footage from January 6th. Like, it's like, does everything have to be J6 about Barney? Other than that, it's a great doc. I know the filmmaker, Tommy Avalone.
How did Barney lead into January 6th?
I called him out on it. I said, Doc's great. Why did you do that? It's like, are they expected? I really feel like you can get funding for a documentary if you decide.
You guys remember, like, you hear the stories of the Hollywood blacklist back in the 50s. This feels like the reverse of that. Like, everything was anti-communism. Like, if you had communistic type storylines or whatever, you know, you weren't allowed to put that out there in the Hollywood. If you had anti-communistic storylines, you would probably get a little bit more, you know, love from the studios. It feels like the opposite of that. Like, if you have a political slant, it better be to the left, because if it's to the right, you're done. And then even if you have, like, that's crazy to me that you throw that at
James
the end of a Barney documentary. That's wild to me, man.
Yeah.
That's
James Woods, the perfect example of this, to the point where in Oppenheimer, they used like a book that he wrote and he was a producer, and they asked him, like, can you just not say anything about you being a producer? And it was only in like the end credits that people were like, wait, James Woods?
Yeah, but
he's
my understanding is the exact opposite, that James Wood wanted to protect the movie and had his name taken out.
But that's the point. Because why? Protect it from what?
Well, I
The
mean, they
mere
didn't
mention of his
ask him to
name.
pull his name out. He offered.
Forgive me. My point being that it's so contentious that yes, he can't even be associated, and he certainly doesn't get mainstream work anymore.
Let me finish my point here and say documentary film in general is compromised. It's compromised. I believe if you up front, before you've even made your movie, say, this is what I'm trying to say, you will get funding. And there are fewer sources for funding if you don't toe the line. I'm just saying it. I mean, what I'm saying is the way they framed what's happening. I love a documentary where a filmmaker says, I'm going to see what happens. Where does the story take me? And then come to a conclusion. The conclusions are up front. And then the movie ends up pushing the agenda.
Let me talk about 2 + 2 = 5. But half the movie is George Orwell's story. The other half of the movie is Trump is an authoritarian, and that Trump is the most dangerous thing to the globe at the moment.
No, wait a second. I wouldn't mind if they did that and looked at the 4 years between 2020 and 2024 and things that happened then. If you're going to critique equally.
Right. But in this case, it's like Republicans are evil, and no Democrat in this movie is ever criticized for anything. And look, it's true that Orwell was a democratic socialist, but at the same time, he understood how far the left can go, how far communists and socialists can go if given unreigned power. And he was equally afraid of that from his people, from his own belief and his own political stance. But this one just ignores that and just says Trump is evil. The greatest fear you have today is Donald Trump.
Speaking of evil, Trump floats 100% tariff on foreign-made films once again. Now, I do think this is a threat. It's an empty threat, and maybe it has I'm going to have you read his post from Truth Social. I believe the intention behind this is to bring production back to America. So many movies are shooting outside of the U.S. Here is the post here. I'm going to blow it up so you can read that, Badger, if you would.
Our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby. California, with its weak and incompetent governor, has been particularly hit hard. Therefore, in order to solve this long-time, never-ending problem, I will be imposing a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are made outside of the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, President DJT.
Well, in defense of all my friends who work in production and are, unemployed, if this threat helps bring some production back, that's a good thing. I think living in the most overtaxed state in the country, we pay more for gas, more for groceries, checkbox, everything you pay for on a daily basis. It costs more in California. And with a pen, Newsom could change that. I think I don't think this is going to happen. This is a threat to try to get people who do have power, Newsom, to do the right thing and try to bring production back to California. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, if you follow the things that Trump does, when he makes these threats, it's always done to get people to the negotiating table and to say, how do we solve this problem? Let's sit down, and if they don't come to the negotiating table, you know what he does? He does exactly what he says, and he'll
good. They need to be afraid.
100%.
You know what?
Yeah, it's always negotiations. That's the whole art of the deal, right? He starts with the maximalist position. He starts with the biggest fine, the biggest problem that you're ever going to have to deal with, 100% tariffs. And then you come to the negotiation table and he's like, hey, welcome to the negotiations. Let's talk. And then he actually gives you a fair deal. But he always starts with the threat, with this could happen You know, so yeah, I agree. I don't think he's serious about it, but he's trying to get people to the negotiation table
It's
so they
leverage.
can actually, yeah, exactly. You start with the biggest position you got because that's the worst thing that could possibly happen, and then you dial it back. That's Trump's whole art of the deal. That's how he works.
What about
I
like a
think,
federal tax credit for filming? And sorry, Dante, but I just saw some lawmakers were like, "That's great, but what about a federal tax credit that if you film in America,
So I'm totly
it's
against
as
that.
opposed to doing it the state wide?"
I'm totally against that as well, because you're basically taking tax credits and paying a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You know, what really needs to happen, and this is what Trump is not addressing, and he should, is the bureaucracy, the red tape, the regulations that movie makers have to face when they shoot in America. And that has to be a part of the deal as well. That if you want us to come back to America and shoot films, make it cheaper. You know, stop regulating the hell out of us.
And those are stateside decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was basically going to say what Alan said. I mean, I think that it's a good. I'm not even going to call it a bluff. It's a good tactic, I guess. But it doesn't matter if Gavin Newsom doesn't change any laws here.
Yeah, I agree with the Bill S. Preston Esquire just said in the chat. It's like, I don't think there should be any subsidies. I think at all. Make movies that make money. You know, that's the incentive, is have the audience come in and make films that they're profitable. I mean, that should be the motive, right? Make films that appeal to a broad audience. You see, every time we go over top 10 of the box office, every week, we see a film that was 20 years ago. We had Spider-Man 2 this weekend. We had Back to the Future's coming out in a couple weeks. We had Jaws, Apollo 13, so many older films that anyone can see, left or right, doesn't matter. They're great films that have stories that are compelling. Make those movies and make them here in America. And it would be great if we had movies that basically reflected American values. I don't mean left or left Democrat, right Republican values. I mean just pure American values. Like, where are those movies? I miss those movies.
Yeah.
Go watch Spider-Man 2. That movie has heroism, self-sacrifice. Peter Parker is a true hero. It has romance.
A heterosexual relationship.
Aunt May is a church-going, God-fearing woman. It's patriotic with the American flag. Like, I mean, it's like
the populace isn't apathetic and they all defend Spider-Man and put the hand scene. You got to get through us to go. Like, yeah, we don't have that society anymore, but we had once upon a time.
Well, those movies are so few and far between, because the people in Hollywood, the people writing the scripts, Hollywood in general, don't believe in those values anymore. So why would they write about it? Like all of that is evil. All of that goes against their ideology and their beliefs. They don't think that way anymore. They don't value those things. America is evil to them. Like, just listen to how they talk about America and how they talk about American values. They don't believe in any of that anymore. So why would they write about it? That's why those types of movies are gems when they come out. And people are like, oh my God, the movies are great when they have those types of values, those types of heroes, those types of, it's centered around family or centered around a hero. Like, those are so few and far between nowadays because they don't believe in that anymore.
Right. Hollywood is allergic to money, and Hollywood is allergic to success.
Well, I'll just say, Steph, to
they
respond
think
to
that their way of thinking is the proper way of thinking, and they have to educate the masses by pushing their propaganda, by pushing their ideology and inserting it into all of the movies that they're creating, because they think that that is the proper way of thinking, and they just need to educate people into the right way of thinking. Just
to respond to what you said, Steph, I don't think that Hollywood feels that way. I think what Hollywood has done is they've hired people who think that way. There are plenty of people who do not think that way. I would say the majority of the public doesn't think that way. But what they've done is, out of guilt, fear, whatever, they've hired some assistants, producers, other people in their organization, and they all think in lockstep. And that is reflected in the movies
That's
and
the
TV
echo
shows.
chamber.
It's the echo chamber because they've hired certain types of people. They're not hiring in a diverse way where you get different opinions. We'll talk about this more when we get to LA Comic-Con. But
well, I mean, we do see that with a lot of characters though, in a lot of movies, man. Like for me, it was never made more clear than when Captain Falcon came out, right? When Brave New World came out. I heard people were basically, when that movie was announced and when they were going forward with it right after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, people were like, hashtagging, Sam Wilson is my Captain America. Sam Wilson is Captain America. Which to me, I was pissed because Captain America is literally, Steve Rogers is my favorite comic book character. And so I asked people like, okay, Sam Wilson is your Captain America. Why? Why is he your Captain America? What has he done as Captain America for him to be your Captain America?
He was born black.
He was black.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of stuff Hollywood is pushing.
Yeah, here's the thing though. I will push back a little bit on Chris. I will push back a little bit in saying that, like, yes, if most people in Hollywood don't think that way, they just hired all of these people. Why not fire them? Right? They're almost protecting these people by keeping them in these corporations and allowing them to practically bankrupt movies because these movies aren't making any money by inserting all of their ideology in that. And it's almost cowardly because they're not actually taking a stand. In fact, they're pushing out actors or blacklisting actors who think differently than the current Hollywood narrative.
Because Hollywood is cowards.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Studios are cowards.
Hollywood fears the internet. They fear news going viral. That even though most of America doesn't care, if it goes viral, they hate it, and they'll do everything they can to not have lightning strike them in some way or the other.
It's almost as if they haven't yet learned that people don't care about all of the woke agenda, all of this ideology. We just want to be entertained, and if you make a good story, then people will go and support it, as opposed to making this movie that pushes all of this ideology, like Black Captain Falcon, or basically anything that Marvel's put out lately, and then have their actors go out and promote it as, oh, this is the first thing. This is, race is very important. And have that be the topic of conversation as opposed to what the movie is about. Because I used to enjoy watching movie promotions because we would get snippets of the movie and they would talk about their character as opposed to, the race of their character. Just very skin deep things about the character. Like, oh, yes, it's very first Black Captain America, very proud to, be representative of blah, 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 as opposed to talking about like the heart of the character, what they're all about. And now that's basically all it is. It's just we're the first, like with Rings of Power, I'm the first Black dwarf, and I'm representative of all of this. And I'm the poster child of representing all this stuff. It's so annoying to the regular movie going.
Leslie Headland,
don't care about any of that.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Type of thing. Facts. Like it just keeps happening and happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Kathleen Kennedy burned down the biggest franchise in the history of film with the very things that Steph's talking about, because she decided to push the Force is female over the franchise. This is more important than Star Wars or Star Wars fans. And now Star Wars is sitting at the bottom of the ocean. Why? And they won't get rid of her. I don't understand it. She's still there.
She's got tapes, dude. She's got pictures and tapes and audio files, and she's never leaving.
Well, I was going to say the irony in all this too is it's not that hard to make a good, diverse movie, right? We watched F1 last night, me and Alan, again. F1 was a very diverse movie, and it was very good. And you know what? It didn't preach to you. It didn't preach at you. It was just a good movie that was diverse.
Yeah, but you know what they're going to say? It wasn't diverse, and you had a black guy that played second fiddle to a heteronormative white guy.
You know I haven't heard that.
Never enough.
I haven't heard any of those complaints.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, that's the thing. I haven't heard about that movie. I've heard good things.
They don't use.
It's not woke. It's not pushing an agenda. It's just a good movie with a diverse cast, and that's fine. You can get that done, but they won't do it. They got to push the politics alongside the diversity, and that's where it gets screwed up.
Yeah, and it makes you look forward to the next one. It actually makes me want an F1 Days of Thunder crossover.
Yeah,
because the movie was so good.
I would.
Yeah,
love
he's
that.
not working on it.
Which Alan couldn't secure for us. We're best friends now.
Yeah, I want to show a post from the Babylon Bee that kind of touches on what we're discussing, kind of end the conversation about this here. But here it is from the Babylon Bee. It says, sad man who could have been profoundly moved by classic piece of literature if it had only contained a character of his exact race, sex, and socioeconomic class.
Oh my
So,
God.
there you go. I mean, look, I always say that really good fiction, the purpose of it is to be able to see the world through someone else's eyes. We need to get back to that because, as you pointed out, F1 very diverse. In fact, I love even the little side characters got filled out with storylines, which I thought was great. But